I should have known something was wrong when Chris forgot to kiss me goodbye on our anniversary morning. In 15 years of marriage, he'd never missed that ritual. Not once. My name is Kiara, and I'm about to tell you how my husband and his mother destroyed my life in the span of 24 hours. But more importantly, I'm going to tell you exactly how I destroyed theirs right back. It started with our anniversary dinner at Romano's, the same restaurant where Chris proposed. I'd made the reservation weeks ago, picked out a new dress, even splurged on the expensive perfume he used to love. The whole evening, he kept checking his phone like he was expecting news about a dying relative. "Everything okay?" I asked, watching him scroll through messages for the 5th time. "Just work stuff." He didn't even look up. You know how it is. I knew how it used to be. Chris used to put his phone in the car during our dates, said I deserved his full attention. Now I was competing with a screen and losing. When the waiter brought our dessert, tiramisu with a sparkler, their anniversary special, Chris barely glanced at it. "Remember when we came here for our first anniversary?" I tried again. "You said you'd bring me back every year until we were too old to walk." Still scrolling, I ate the tiramisu alone while my husband texted someone more important than his wife. The next morning, I was balancing our checkbook when my world imploded. Our joint savings account showed a balance of $247.83. 3 months ago, it had $47,000. My hands shook as I pulled up the transaction history. Withdrawal after withdrawal, all signed by Chris. The largest one, $15,000, was dated just 2 days ago. "Chris!" I called from the kitchen. "Can you come here for a second?" He wandered in, coffee mug in hand, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Where's our money?" I turned the laptop screen toward him. His face didn't change. No surprise, no confusion, no panic. Just mild annoyance, like I'd asked him to take out the trash. "I used it." "You used $47,000? On what?" "Mom needed surgery." My stomach dropped. "Surgery? Is she okay? Why didn't you tell me?" Chris set down his mug and looked at me like I was being deliberately dense. "She got a facelift. Full facial reconstruction, actually. She's been saving for years, but she was still short." I stared at him. "A facelift? It's important to her." "So you spent our entire savings, money we've been putting away for the house down payment, on your mother's cosmetic surgery?" "She's my mother, Ciara. And I'm your wife." "A son's duty is to his mother, not his aging wife." The words hit me like a physical blow. Aging wife. I was 38 years old, and my husband had just called me aging to justify spending our life savings on his mother's vanity. I must have made some sound, a gasp, maybe a whimper, because Chris's expression softened slightly. "Look, I know you're upset, but this was important. Mom's been depressed about getting older, and this surgery will help her confidence. She raised me, sacrificed everything for me. The least I can do is help her feel beautiful again." "What about us? What about our plans?" "We'll save again. We're young." Young. Aging. He couldn't even keep his insult straight. I closed the laptop very carefully, like it might explode if I moved too fast. "I need some air." I walked to the park 3 blocks away and sat on a bench, watching joggers and dog walkers live their normal lives while mine crumbled. My phone buzzed with texts from Chris, probably apologizing, maybe explaining, definitely expecting forgiveness. I didn't read them. Instead, I sat there and thought about the last 5 years, How Chris always took Sandra's side in arguments. How he spent every Sunday at her house, leaving me home alone. How Sandra made little comments about my cooking, my clothes, my inability to give her grandchildren, while Chris just smiled and changed the subject. How I'd been slowly erased from my own marriage. By the time I walked home, I'd made a decision. If Chris wanted to choose his mother over his wife, fine. If Sandra wanted to play games with my life, fine. If they thought I was just going to roll over and accept being discarded like yesterday's newspaper, they were about to learn otherwise. I realized if they wanted a performance, I could give them one worthy of an Oscar. When I walked back into the house, Chris was pacing the living room like a caged animal. Perfect. Kiara, thank God. I was worried sick. You weren't answering your phone. I let my shoulders slump and made my voice small. I needed to process everything. Baby, I'm so sorry. I should have talked to you first. He rushed over, trying to pull me into a hug. I know I messed up. I let him hold me, even leaned into it a little. I just don't understand how we got here, Chris. When did I become so unimportant? You're not unimportant. You're everything to me. Then why does it feel like I'm competing with your mother for my own husband? Chris pulled back, his face cycling through guilt and defensiveness. It's not a competition. I love you both. But you chose her. I chose to help family. I let tears well up in my eyes. Not hard, considering how much this actually hurt. Am I not family? Of course you are. Then why didn't you ask me? Why didn't we discuss this together? Chris ran his hands through his hair. Because I knew you'd say no, so you just took it, without even giving me a choice. I was going to tell you after... After what? After I found out we were broke. I let my voice crack. Chris, that money was for our future, our house, maybe starting a family. His face went pale. We'd been trying for kids for 3 years with no luck, and it was still a raw subject. We can save again, he said weakly. Can we? Because right now I don't even know if we have a marriage worth saving for. I walked upstairs, leaving him standing there looking devastated. In our bedroom, I quietly closed the door and called Alana. Girl, you sound terrible. What happened? Chris spent our entire savings on his mother's facelift. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. What now? I filled her in on everything, including the aging wife comment. By the end, Alana was practically spitting fire. That manipulative witch! And your husband! God, Chiara, I could strangle him! I need help, Alana. I can't just let this go. What are you thinking? Remember Jennifer from our old firm, the one who went to work for the IRS? Jennifer Santos. Yeah, she's in their fraud division now. Why? A gift that large to a family member, if it's not properly reported, it's tax fraud. Alana was quiet for a moment. Ciara, are you sure about this? Once you go down this road? They already went down the road. They just didn't invite me along for the ride. Okay. I'll reach out to Jennifer tomorrow, quietly. Thank you. What are you going to do in the meantime? Play the grieving wife. Let Chris think he can fix this with flowers and apologies. After I hung up, I spent the next hour going through our financial records. Chris had been sloppy, probably because he never expected me to fight back. Every transaction was documented, every transfer logged. He'd even saved the receipts from Sandra's surgeon. $15,000 for the surgery itself. Another $8,000 for the recovery suite at some luxury medical spa. $5,000 for post-op treatments. The rest went to new clothes for Sandra's reveal party next month. My phone buzzed. A text from Chris. Ordered Thai food from that place you like. I love you. I texted back. Thank you. Love you too. The lies came so easily now. Downstairs, Chris had set the dining room table with our good china and lit candles. He was trying so hard to make this romantic, to smooth over the destruction of our financial future with pad thai and apologies. This looks nice, I said, letting him pull out my chair. I wanted to do something special, show you how much you mean to me. We ate in relative silence until Chris cleared his throat. I talked to Mom while you were upstairs. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Oh, she wants to have lunch with you this weekend, to explain everything herself. That's thoughtful of her. She feels terrible about the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding, like accidentally spending someone's life savings was a simple miscommunication. What did you tell her? That you're hurt, but you'll come around. You always do. The casual confidence in his voice made my blood boil, but I kept my expression neutral. I just need time to adjust to everything. Of course. Take all the time you need. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. We're going to be okay, Ciara. I promise. Later that night, as Chris snored beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My phone lit up with a text from Alana. Jennifer says call her tomorrow at 2 p.m. She's very interested. I smiled in the darkness. Chris was right about one thing. We were going to be okay, just not in the way he imagined. The lunch with Sandra was scheduled for Saturday at her favorite country club. Chris insisted on driving me there himself, like I might flee if left to my own devices. Remember, she's still recovering, he said as we pulled into the parking lot. The swelling hasn't gone down completely. I'll be gentle. And Ciara, try to understand where she's coming from. This surgery wasn't vanity. It was about her self-worth. I nodded and squeezed his hand. I'll do my best. Sandra was waiting at a corner table, her face wrapped in designer scarves that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Even with the swelling, I could see the work was extensive. She looked like a different person. Ciara, darling. She stood to air-kiss me, careful not to disturb her bandages. You look tired. It's been a stressful week. I'm sure. She gestured for me to sit. Chris told me about your little outburst. I wanted to clear the air. Little outburst. Like discovering your life savings had vanished was equivalent to a toddler's tantrum. I appreciate you wanting to talk. Good, because I need you to understand something. Sandra leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Chris is my son, my only son. Everything I've done, every sacrifice I've made has been for him. I understand that. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you're trying to come between us. I blinked. I'm not trying to come between anyone. I just wish I'd been included in the decision. Some decisions aren't yours to make. Sandra's tone sharpened. Chris knows his priorities. Family first always. I am family. Sandra laughed, a brittle sound. You're his wife. That's different. How is that different? Wives come and go, sweetheart. Mothers are forever. The waiter appeared, saving me from having to respond immediately. We ordered. Sandra got a salad she barely touched. I got soup I couldn't taste. Chris mentioned you're upset about the money. Sandra continued once we were alone again. $47,000 is a lot of money to spend without discussion. It was an investment in his mother's happiness. Surely that's worth something to you. Of course it is. You just what? Think your little house fund is more important than my well-being? It wasn't just a house fund. It was our future. Sandra waved dismissively. You're young. You have time to save again. I'm 38. Exactly. Young. She touched her bandaged cheek gently. I'm 65, Kiara. This was my last chance to feel beautiful again. I wanted to point out that she'd been beautiful before, that confidence came from within, that spending someone else's money on cosmetic surgery was selfish and cruel. Instead, I nodded sympathetically. I can understand that. Can you? Because Chris seems to think you're planning to make this difficult for us. What do you mean? Legal action, divorce lawyers, that sort of nonsense. My blood went cold. Chris said that. He's worried you might do something rash, something you'd regret. Like what? Sandra's smile was sharp, even through the bandages. Like forgetting that Chris has options, other women who understand what it means to support a man's family. The threat hung in the air between us like poison gas. Are you saying Chris is having an affair? I'm saying Chris is a good man who deserves a supportive wife. If you can't be that wife... She shrugged delicately. I set down my spoon very carefully. Sandra, are you threatening me? I'm giving you advice, as someone who loves Chris and wants what's best for him. And what's best for him is a wife who lets him steal from her. What's best for him is a wife who understands her place. I excused myself to the bathroom, hands shaking with rage. In the stall, I called Alana. She basically told me Chris would leave me if I don't fall in line. I whispered. That manipulative... There's more. She knew about the money beforehand. This wasn't Chris making an impulsive decision. They planned this together. Ciara, you need to get out of there. I'm going back to finish lunch. I need to know how deep this goes. When I returned to the table, Sandra was on her phone. Yes, she's being very reasonable, she was saying. I think we can handle this without any complications. She hung up as I sat down. Chris? I asked. He was worried about how our talk was going. And what did you tell him? That you're a smart girl who knows which side her bread is buttered on. I smiled sweetly. You're absolutely right, Sandra. I do know exactly which side my bread is buttered on. What she didn't know was that I'd just figured out how to flip the whole damn loaf. Monday afternoon, I sat across from Jennifer Santos in a sterile IRS office that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. She looked exactly the same as she had 5 years ago. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and the kind of smile that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. Ciara, it's been too long. Jennifer flipped through the folder I'd brought. Though I have to say, this isn't exactly a social call. No, it's not. Walk me through this again. Your husband withdrew $47,000 from your joint account to pay for his mother's cosmetic surgery. Correct. Without my knowledge or consent. Jennifer pulled out a calculator. And none of this was reported as a gift? Not as far as I know. A gift of this size requires a Form 709. The recipient also needs to report it on their tax return. Jennifer's fingers flew over the calculator keys. We're looking at potential penalties, interest and back taxes. Could be substantial. How substantial? Depends on their tax bracket and how long this has been going on. But we're probably talking 20 to 30,000 in penalties alone. My stomach fluttered. That much. Tax fraud isn't a parking ticket, Ciara. The IRS takes this seriously. Jennifer leaned back in her chair. But I have to ask, are you sure about this? Once I open an investigation, there's no going back. I'm sure. Even if it destroys your marriage? My marriage was destroyed the moment my husband called me his aging wife and chose his mother over me. Jennifer nodded slowly. Okay then. I'll need copies of everything. Bank statements, receipts, any communication about the surgery. I slid a thick envelope across the desk. It's all there. You came prepared. I'm an accountant. I know how to document things. Jennifer opened the envelope and whistled softly. Jesus, Ciara. This is a prosecutor's dream. They kept receipts for everything. Chris has always been thorough with paperwork. Too thorough, apparently. Jennifer pulled out a receipt from the medical spa. Look at this. They even documented the champagne service in the recovery suite. $1,500 for Dom Perignon. While I was eating ramen for lunch because I thought we were saving money. This is going to get messy, Jennifer warned. Your husband and his mother will know exactly who turned them in. Good. Jennifer studied my face. You're really angry. I'm furious. But more than that, I'm done being treated like I don't matter. Fair enough. Jennifer closed the folder. I'll start the preliminary investigation this week. Expect some fireworks in about 10 days. That evening, Chris was unusually chatty over dinner. Mom's recovery is going really well, he said, cutting into his steak. The swelling's almost gone. That's wonderful. She wants to have a big reveal party next month. Show off the results. Sounds expensive. Chris paused mid-chew. Not that expensive. Just family and close friends. At the country club? Probably. Why? I shrugged, just wondering how much more this surgery is going to cost us. It's not costing us anything else. The surgery's paid for. But the party? Mom's handling that herself. With what money? Chris set down his fork. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I just know how much those parties cost, and I wondered where the money was coming from. She has her own savings, Ciara. Of course she does. But something in my tone must have bothered him, because he spent the rest of dinner asking probing questions about my day, my mood, my plans for the weekend. I deflected everything with practiced ease. Later, while Chris was in the shower, his phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it reflexively and froze. The message was from Sandra. Tate's asking questions about the money. Handle it. I quickly memorized the message and put the phone back. When Chris came out of the bathroom, I was already in bed, pretending to read. Everything okay? He asked. Just tired. He climbed into bed beside me. You've been quiet lately. I'm still processing everything. I know this has been hard on you, but I think you'll see in time that I made the right choice. Maybe. Chris kissed my forehead. I love you, Ciara, even when you're mad at me. I love you too. The lies were getting easier every day. The next morning, after Chris left for work, I called Alana. How did it go with Jennifer? She's opening an investigation. 10 days, maybe less. Holy shit. Are you ready for this? I think so, but there's something else. Chris got a text from Sandra last night. Something about Tate asking questions. His brother? Yeah, I think they're worried about something. Or someone's getting suspicious. Either way, I need to be careful. They're already watching me. Just hang in there. 10 more days and this whole thing blows up. 10 days. I could play the devoted wife for 10 more days. After that, all bets were off. I started moving my things out of the house in small increments. A few pieces of jewelry here, some important documents there. Nothing Chris would notice immediately, but enough to protect what mattered most. Wednesday evening, I was quietly packing my grandmother's china when Chris appeared in the dining room doorway. "What are you doing?" My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. "Spring cleaning. I thought I'd donate some things we never use." "That's your grandmother's china." "I know, but when do we ever use it? It just sits here collecting dust." Chris stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You're not donating your grandmother's china, Kiara. You're right. I was being sentimental." I carefully placed the plates back in the cabinet. "I'll find something else to donate." "Good." But he didn't leave. He stood there watching me like I might bolt for the door. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "You tell me. You've been acting strange lately." "Strange how?" "Quiet. Secretive. Like you're planning something." I forced a laugh. "Planning what?" "I'm not exactly the scheming type, Chris." "No, you're not." He relaxed slightly. "That's what I told Mom when she said you might cause trouble." "Sandra thinks I'm going to cause trouble?" "She's worried you might do something rash, like call a lawyer or something." "Have I called a lawyer?" "Have you?" The question hung between us like a loaded gun. I met his eyes directly. "No, Chris, I haven't called a lawyer." It was technically true. Alana had called Brett for me. "Good, because that would be a mistake." "Would it? We can work through this, Kiara, but only if you don't do anything stupid." "Like what?" "Like thinking you can punish me for helping my mother." The mask slipped for just a second, and I saw the real Chris underneath, cold, calculating, and completely certain of his own righteousness. "I'm not trying to punish anyone," I said carefully. "I hope not. Because if you try to make this difficult for me, for us, you'll regret it." "Is that a threat?" Chris stepped closer, his voice dropping low. "It's a promise. I've been patient with your little tantrum, but my patience has limits." "My tantrum? What would you call it? Sulking around the house, giving me the silent treatment, acting like I committed some horrible crime." "You stole our savings." "I helped my mother. There's a difference." "Not to me. Then maybe that's the problem." Chris turned to leave, then paused. "By the way, I'm changing the passwords on our accounts, just until you're thinking more clearly." After he left, I sat at the dining room table and called Alana. "He's locking me out of our accounts," I whispered. "Can he do that?" "They're joint accounts, but if he changes the passwords..." I rubbed my temples. "I need to see Brett tomorrow." "I'll set it up. Are you okay? You sound shaken." "He threatened me, Alana. Not directly, but the message was clear." "What kind of threat?" "That I'd regret it if I made things difficult for him." "Jesus! Ciara, maybe you should stay somewhere else tonight." "No. If I leave now, he'll know something's up. I just need to hold on a few more days." Thursday afternoon, I met Brett at his office. He was exactly what Alana had promised, sharp, experienced, and completely unsympathetic to cheating husbands and their manipulative mothers. "So he's already trying to control your access to marital assets," Brett said, reviewing my notes. "That's actually helpful for our case." "Helpful how?" "It shows intent to hide assets and control you financially. Courts don't like that." Brett leaned back in his chair. How much do you know about your husband's other accounts? Other accounts? Most people who hide money don't stop at one secret. If he's willing to steal from your joint savings, he's probably got other assets tucked away. I don't know about any other accounts. We'll find them. In the meantime, I want you to document everything, every conversation, every threat, every attempt to control your access to money. What about the IRS investigation? Brett smiled grimly. That's going to be very helpful. Nothing says unfit spouse like tax fraud. That evening, Chris was waiting for me when I got home from grocery shopping. Where were you, really? He asked. Shopping, like I said. For 3 hours, I ran into my old coworker Sarah. We had coffee. Which coworker? Sarah from my old job. You don't know her. Chris studied my face. You're lying. I'm not lying. Yes, you are. You have a tell when you lie. You touch your earring. I looked down. My hand was indeed touching my left earring. I wasn't lying about seeing Sarah. But you were lying about something. I took a deep breath. Fine. I also went to see a therapist. Chris blinked. A therapist? I've been struggling with everything that's happened. I thought talking to someone might help. You should have told me. I wasn't sure you'd be supportive. Chris's expression softened slightly. Of course, I'd be supportive. I want you to feel better. Do you? Yes. I hate seeing you like this. Like what? Sad. Angry. Not yourself. I nodded, letting him think he'd figured me out. The therapist thinks it might take some time to work through my feelings about the money. How much time? I don't know. However long it takes. Chris pulled me into a hug. I'm sorry this has been so hard on you, but we're going to be okay. Are we? Of course we are. We just need to get past this rough patch. I hugged him back, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. In 3 days, Jennifer would show up at Sandra's recovery suite with a team of investigators. In 3 days, everything would change. I hope you're right. I whispered into his shoulder, and for the first time in weeks, I meant it. Friday morning, Chris left early for a client meeting. I knew he was really going to Sandra's recovery suite for her big reveal to the family. The irony wasn't lost on me. While they were celebrating their victory, the IRS was putting the finishing touches on their investigation. My phone rang at 10:47 a.m. It's happening, Jennifer said without preamble. We're heading to the medical spa now. How many agents? 3, plus me. We've got warrants for financial records and authorization to interview both your husband and his mother. They're both there? According to our surveillance, yes, along with several family members. My hands started shaking. Jennifer, what if I'm wrong about this? What if... Ciara, stop. You're not wrong. We've verified everything. This is textbook tax fraud. After she hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone. In about 30 minutes, my marriage would officially be over. Not that it hadn't been over already, but this would make it undeniable. The first call came at 11:23 a.m. Chris. I let it go to voicemail. The second call came 2 minutes later. Sandra. Voicemail again. By noon, I had 17 missed calls and 12 voicemails. I finally listened to the first one from Chris. Ciara, what the hell did you do? The IRS is here asking questions about Mom's surgery. They have documents, receipts, everything. Call me back right now. The second voicemail was Sandra, her voice shrill with panic. You vindictive little bitch! I know this was you! When Chris finds out what you've done, he'll never forgive you. Never. The third was Chris again, angrier this time. I can't believe you'd do this to my mother, to me. She's 65 years old, Ciara. How could you be so cruel? I deleted the rest without listening. At 1:15 p.m., my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Chris standing on our front porch, his face red with fury. I opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. "Let me in," he said. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Let me in, Ciara. We need to talk." "We can talk like this. The neighbors will hear." "Then keep your voice down." Chris pressed his face close to the gap in the door. "You called the IRS. Did I?" "Don't play games with me. I know it was you." "How do you know?" "Because you're the only one vindictive enough to destroy an old woman's life over money." "I didn't destroy anything, Chris. You did that when you stole from me." "I didn't steal anything. I helped my mother." "Without my permission, using money that belonged to both of us." "It was the right thing to do." "Then why are you so worried about the IRS investigation?" Chris stepped back, his jaw working furiously. "Because you know they'll find problems. You know the paperwork wasn't filed correctly." "So you admit it?" "I admit nothing, but Mom's accountant might have made some mistakes." "Might have?" "Fine. The gift wasn't reported properly. Are you happy now?" "Not particularly." "This is going to cost us everything, Ciara. The penalties, the legal fees, we'll lose the house. We already lost the house when you spent our down payment." "We could have saved again." "Could we? Or would Sandra have found another crisis that required our money?" Chris slammed his palm against the doorframe. "She's my mother." "And I'm your wife. Or was your wife. I'm not sure what I am anymore." "You're my wife, and you're going to fix this." "Fix what?" "Call them off. Tell the IRS it was a misunderstanding." I laughed, and the sound surprised even me. "You think I can just call off a federal investigation?" "You started it. You can stop it." "That's not how it works, Chris." "Then we're both screwed." "No, you're screwed. I didn't commit tax fraud." Chris's eyes narrowed. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won." "I think I've protected myself." "From what?" "From a husband who values his mother more than his wife. From a marriage where I don't matter." "You matter. Do I? Because your actions say otherwise." Chris pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my lawyer." "Good idea. You're going to need one." "You'll regret this, Ciara. When the dust settles and you're sitting alone in some crappy apartment, you'll regret destroying our family." "We didn't have a family, Chris. We had your mother's fan club, and I was never invited to join." He turned and walked away, but stopped at the end of the driveway. "This isn't over," he called back. "Yes, it is." I closed the door and slid down against it, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me up. My phone buzzed with a text from Alana. "Saw the news? You okay?" I looked up. "What news?" I turned on the local news channel, and there it was, a brief segment about an IRS investigation at an upscale medical spa. They didn't mention names, but they showed footage of agents carrying boxes of documents out of the building. My phone rang. Jennifer. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I've been better. How bad is it?" "For them, very bad. We found evidence of multiple unreported gifts, not just the surgery. Your mother-in-law has been receiving substantial financial support from your husband for years. How substantial? Over $200,000 in the past 5 years. I closed my eyes. Jesus. Tiara, there's something else. We found evidence that your husband was planning to transfer more assets to his mother's name. Looks like he was trying to hide money from you. For divorce proceedings? That's what it looks like. So Sandra had been right. They had been planning to shut me out for good. What happens now? I asked. Now we build our case, and you might want to think about getting that divorce attorney on speed dial. The story broke on Tuesday morning. Not the national news, but our local paper ran it on the front page. Local woman faces federal tax fraud, charges after cosmetic surgery, gift. They didn't use Sandra's name, but in a town this size, everyone would know by lunch. I was drinking coffee and reading the article when my phone rang. Tate. Ciara, we need to talk. Do we? Chris is losing his mind. Mom's locked herself in her house and won't come out. The whole family's falling apart. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because you don't sound sorry. I set down my coffee cup. What do you want, Tate? I want to understand why you destroyed my family. I didn't destroy anything. I reported tax fraud. Over a gift to help Mom feel better about herself. Over $47,000 stolen from my marriage. Chris said you knew about the surgery. Chris lied. Tate was quiet for a moment. Look, I know my brother can be selfish, and Mom can be difficult, but this is going to ruin them. They ruined themselves. The penalties alone could bankrupt them both. Then maybe they should have thought of that before committing fraud. Jesus, Ciara, when did you become so cold? When your brother called me his aging wife and chose his mother over me. He didn't mean, yes, he did. And so did Sandra when she told me wives come and go, but mothers are forever. Another silence. She said that? Among other things. Shit. Tate sighed heavily. Look, is there anything we can do to fix this? You can tell your brother I'll be serving him with divorce papers tomorrow. Sarah. I hung up. Wednesday morning, Brett's process server found Chris at his office. I wasn't there to see it, but Alana heard from her friend, who worked in the same building, that Chris threw the papers across the lobby and screamed that I'd regret this. He called me 20 minutes later. You filed for divorce. Yes. Without even trying to work things out. There's nothing to work out, Chris. We've been married 15 years. And you threw it away for your mother's facelift. I made one mistake. You made 100 mistakes. The surgery was just the last one. Fine. You want a divorce? You'll get one, but don't expect me to make it easy. I wouldn't dream of it. I'm going to fight for everything, Ciara. The house, the cars, my retirement account. Your retirement account that you've been secretly transferring to Sandra? Chris went quiet. Oh, yes, I know about that too. The IRS found all of it. You're bluffing, am I? Why don't you call your financial advisor and ask him about those transfers you made last month? The line went dead. Thursday evening, Sandra finally emerged from her house. She showed up at my front door at 7 p.m., her face still swollen from surgery, but twisted with rage. You destroyed my life, she said the moment I opened the door. You destroyed your own life. I'm 65 years old. I'll never recover from this financially. You should have thought of that before accepting stolen money. It wasn't stolen. It was a gift from my son. A gift that wasn't reported to the IRS. That makes it fraud. Sandra stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. You think you've won, but you haven't. Chris will never forgive you for this. Never. Good. I don't want his forgiveness. You'll end up alone. No man will want a woman who destroys families. I didn't destroy a family, Sandra. I exposed criminals. We're not criminals. Then why are you facing federal charges? Sandra raised her hand like she might slap me, then seemed to remember where she was. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I'll make sure Chris gets everything in the divorce. Everything. With what lawyer? I heard your legal fees are already bankrupting you. Sandra's face went white. How did you know about your lawyer dropping you? Small town, Sandra. Word gets around. She turned and walked away, but I could hear her muttering threats under her breath. Friday morning brought the final blow. Chris's company fired him. Apparently, being under federal investigation for tax fraud violated their ethics clause. He called me from the parking lot. I hope you're happy, he said, his voice hollow. I'm not happy, Chris. I'm free. Free to do what? Sit alone in your empty house? Free to build a life with someone who values me. No one will want you after this. You're poison. Maybe, but I'd rather be poison than a doormat. I loved you. No, you didn't. You loved having someone to take care of you while you took care of your mother. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you chose me over Sandra? When's the last time you put our marriage first? Chris was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Neither do I. And that's the problem. I'm sorry, Ciara, for all of it. I know you are, but sorry doesn't give me back 15 years of coming second in my own marriage. What happens now? Now you figure out how to rebuild your life, and I figure out how to build mine. I hung up and walked to my kitchen window. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. I sat in the courthouse hallway afterward, holding the papers that officially ended my marriage, when Alana found me. How do you feel? She asked, sitting beside me on the hard wooden bench. Lighter, I said, like I've been carrying a heavy bag for years and finally got to put it down. Any regrets? I thought about it honestly. About the marriage ending? No. About how it ended, sometimes. The IRS thing? Sandra got 18 months probation and owes $60,000 in penalties and back taxes. Chris lost his job, his reputation, and most of his savings paying legal fees. I folded the divorce papers carefully. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. Do you really? No, but I wonder if I should. Alana laughed. That's the difference between you and them. You actually have a conscience. We walked out of the courthouse together into the bright afternoon sun. My phone buzzed with a text from Brett. Settlement check cleared. Congratulations on your fresh start. The divorce settlement had been surprisingly favorable. Turns out judges don't like husbands who hide assets and commit tax fraud. I got the house, half of Chris's remaining retirement account, and spousal support for 2 years. Lunch? Alana asked. We should celebrate. Actually, I have somewhere to be. I drove across town to Maple Grove Senior Center, where I'd been volunteering for the past month. Teaching basic computer skills to elderly residents wasn't glamorous work, but it felt good to help people instead of destroying them. Ciara! Mrs. Patterson waved from her wheelchair. Did you bring those photos I asked about? Right here. I pulled out my phone and showed her pictures of the garden I'd been planting. The tomatoes are coming in beautifully. You should bring some next week. I'll make my famous salsa. It's a deal. I spent 2 hours helping residents set up email accounts and video calls with their families. Simple stuff, but watching an 80-year-old grandmother see her great-grandchild's first steps over FaceTime made everything feel worthwhile. On my way home, I stopped at the grocery store. In the produce section, I literally ran into Tate. Our carts collided near the apples. Tiara. He looked uncomfortable, but not hostile. How are you? I'm well. You? Getting by. He picked up an apple, examined it, put it back. Chris is staying with me for a while. How is he? Broken, but maybe that's not a bad thing. I raised an eyebrow. He's been seeing a therapist, Tate continued, actually talking about his relationship with Mom for the first time in his life. That's good. He asked me to tell you something, if I ever saw you. What? That he's sorry. Really sorry. Not just for the money, but for everything. For making you feel invisible in your own marriage. I nodded. Tell him I appreciate that. Will you ever forgive him? I already have. Forgiveness isn't for him, it's for me. And Mom. I considered this. Sandra made her choices. She'll have to live with the consequences. She's working at a department store now. Cosmetics counter. The irony wasn't lost on me. How is she handling that? About as well as you'd expect. But she's paying her debts. Good. Tate shifted his weight. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. It took guts. Thank you. Chris should have chosen you. You were the best thing that ever happened to him. Maybe, but I wasn't the best thing that ever happened to me. Tate smiled sadly. No, I guess you weren't. That evening, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint my garden gold. My phone rang. Jennifer, I wanted to give you an update, she said. Sandra completed her community service today. How much did she have to do? 200 hours. She's been working at a food bank. Fitting. There's something else. She asked me to pass along a message. What kind of message? She said to tell you that you taught her something about consequences. That's it? That's it. No apology, no admission of wrongdoing. But I think, in her way, she was acknowledging that you were right. After Jennifer hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness and thought about karma. People always say, what goes around comes around, but they never mention that sometimes you have to give karma a little push. Chris lost his job but found a therapist. Sandra lost her comfortable life but learned to work for a living. I lost my marriage but found my backbone. Maybe karma doesn't pick sides after all. Maybe it just makes sure everyone gets exactly what they've earned. I raised my wine glass to the stars. Here's to getting what we deserve, I said to the night air. And for the first time in years, I meant every word.